The FBI has taken over and is denying the state of Minnesota any right to properly investigate the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. And across the country, there are new questions this morning surrounding the FBI search of a Fulton County election facility. Agents seized hundreds of boxes of materials related to the 2020 presidential election, seemingly as part of President Trump's false conspiracy theory that he only lost because the vote was rigged. The director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was seen at the site of this at the FBI's raid in Fulton County. And lawmakers want to know why. Intelligence Committee Vice Chairman Senator Mark Warner of Virginia is leading the charge.
This is a director of national intelligence that is affirmatively moved to cut back the Foreign Malign Influence Center on elections. What the heck is she doing on the FBI serving a domestic warrant? You know, if this doesn't concern the heck out of every American, it sure as hell should. This is a person who's got no business interfering in elections.
That comes as new reporting from the Wall Street Journal details Gabbard's role leading the administration's effort to re-examine the election results. The DNI director. The Journal reports that she had been sidelined from traditional DNI duties and did not play any meaningful role in the Venezuela mission, which that role would have been appropriate for. But she has begun studying information about voting machines, analyzed data from swing states, and pursued theories that President Trump has promoted to claim the 2020 election was unfairly taken from him. Gabbard has regularly briefed both the president and the chief of staff, Susie Wiles, and is expected to prepare a report. President Trump was asked last night about her role.
She's working very hard on trying to keep the election safe, and she's done a very good job. And they, as you know, they got into the votes. You got a signed judge's order in Georgia, and you're going to see some interesting things happening. They've been trying to get there for a long time.
The president last night. Let's bring in MS Now senior investigative reporter Carol Leonnig. Carol, so much to sift through here. We talked in our last hour to Greg Bluestein, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution reporter, about why, in the first place, the FBI is there raiding. It's to satisfy Donald Trump's seemingly unquenchable thirst for conspiracies around his election loss that year. But let's talk about the presence, the very unusual presence of the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Why she's there, what she might be doing when she is there.
Well, our sources, Jonathan, are inside the Justice Department and the FBI are really gravely concerned about this new step, mostly because they have questions about whether or not the Justice Department really needs to use its tools to reinvestigate and relitigate the 2020 election in a heavily Democratic county where Donald Trump believes he should have won. For some reason, he still believes he should have won and did win in Georgia. That's not true, but that is something he has wanted to say and has claimed multiple times. The presence of Tulsi Gabbard also spurred a lot of concern inside the DOJ and the FBI among career investigators, because it's so unusual for the Department of National Intelligence to have any role, as Senator Warner said, in a domestic investigation. So keep in mind, the domestic investigation is already disconcerting to people who do this for a living. And now we have the DNI present. The one thing I can share about that I've heard from sources is she's been working for some time on what I would describe and what sources describe as the Sidney Powell theory. You may remember Sidney Powell had been a legal advisor to Trump in the 2020 election, and she gave a fairly infamous press conference where she claimed that there were all sorts of foreign governments that were involved in, particularly Venezuela, involved in interfering and somehow tampering with U.S. voting machines. It's been said that she is also pursuing a theory that China may have interfered. But the question here and the warrant, which is what we should rely on, the facts in the warrant claims that some of the crimes that may have been committed or evidence of these crimes may be found is securing fraudulent ballots, fraudulent votes, and also destroying election materials. So those don't sound like China or Venezuela coming in and tampering with the machines. It sounds more like an investigation of county officials.
So, Carol, two quick side notes to what you said. A top DOJ official, Ed Martin, posted a picture triumphantly with Sidney Powell yesterday as this raid was going on. And also there's plenty in the MAGA world who look at Nicolas Maduro now being in the U.S. prison as potentially he'd be a source of evidence to this idea that Venezuela interfered with that election, all seemingly nonsense. But let's talk not just about what it means for 2020. I want to ask you what we asked Greg Bluestein last hour. Talk to us about officials. He spoke to the Georgia part of it. You please speak to the federal part of it, those you talked to in Washington. This is about 2020, sure, but it's also potentially about 2026 and 2028, sowing distrust, sowing confusion, and suggesting that this administration is going to try to put its thumb on the scale with these upcoming elections.
Such a great point, Jonathan. And, everyone that I have been speaking to for more than a year, actually, in national security circles in DOJ is very worried about exactly that. Why is it that the federal government, as directed by Donald Trump, is, let's start with Attorney General, Pam Bondi in Minnesota, pressuring in a way or suggesting to Governor Walz this week that she'd be willing to ratchet down the federal presence of immigration officers, not really her job, but she'd be willing to work to do that which is very stressful in Minnesota. 2 Americans have been shot in what appears to be excessive use of force. She'd be willing to do that if he would turn over voting roll information. And now we have the federal government through Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, essentially seizing pallets of ballots in Georgia in kind of taking over that office in Fulton County when they could not win a civil lawsuit for more than a month to obtain those records. Claiming that there's a crime and likely evidence of a crime gives the government an incredible wedge, incredible power. And it's very worrisome, again, to those national security officials, past and present, that I've spoken to about the idea that the federal government is interfering in how elections run. Remember, Donald Trump in December of 2020 and January of 2021 tried to insert himself in Georgia and get his Department of Justice to claim that there was fraud there so that they could block the certification of Biden's victory.
Well, you have, as you said, the federal government interfering, also the same federal government that appears to rush to judgment when something violent happens on the streets of an American city, and rush to judgment in a way that appears to be bold-faced lying. So this is extremely concerning on a number of levels, given recent events and the public trust that has been definitely impacted by recent events. MS Now senior investigative reporter Carol Leonnig, thank you very much for your reporting this morning.